Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Finally, it's I started working on this OBS Streamlab, which is something new, half an hour ago, and I just could go live. I'm not sure whether you are watching me or not. Can do you hear me? Can you see me? Please write in the chat box because I'm not sure whether I'm live or not. Yes, seems I'm live. Can you see me, guys? Can you see me? Oh, thanks God. I really wanted to give up. I wanted to tell you come back later, maybe another day. But anyway, I could fix it. Actually, I had prepared many things, not many things in terms of the content of the subject, many entertaining things, but it seems I cannot use them today. But at least we have fixed the issue for now. But let me see, where are my things like mouse? My mouse is here, okay. Where is the charger? Okay, I think it should be fine now. Okay, guys, sorry for the delay, but okay, I'm happy that now we can conduct a class. I can conduct a class. So let's directly go to the topic because I think we are a bit late. So hello everybody. Again, sorry for the delay. I don't know what happened. Actually, I was trying to use my new laptop, but I was supposed to use the new version of OBS because currently I'm using OBS Studio. I was supposed to use Streamlabs, OBS Streamlabs, but it didn't work. I don't know what's the problem. But anyway, for now, I think it's fine. Let me switch off. Okay. So today's topic is very important. It's the most, actually every week I tell you this is the most important topic, but the importance of this topic is because from now, for the next few weeks, we will be working on futures contract using different instruments. So if you learn today's topic, you will be very comfortable with the next 2-3 topics because they are the same in terms of the strategy. Because today I will show you futures contracts on crude palm oil. So the underlying asset is crude palm oil. Then next week, we will change the underlying asset. In the following week, we will change the underlying asset. So today I will show you how to use this contract and implement 3 strategies. Number 1 is hedging, number 2 speculation, number 3 arbitrage. So every week I will show you how to implement these 3 strategies on different contracts, right? And the difference between the contracts that we will discuss is just the underlying asset. The underlying asset can be crude palm oil like this week. Next week we will change it to let's say bonds, I think, and then in the following week stocks and indexes. So if you learn how to implement these 3 strategies today, there won't be any problem for you for the next 2-3 topics. So please pay attention. Because in the final exam, as I said, there will be 4 questions. 2 of them will be on futures. And for the futures, I just give you one of these 3-4 instruments that we will discuss and ask you to implement one of the 3 strategies. So today's topic can be one of the exam questions or can help you to answer other questions on futures contract. So let me see. Okay, it seems everyone is here and there shouldn't be any problem now. I'm very happy. Okay. Now, where are my slides? Slides are here. Okay, I have the slides that I want to use now. They are the same slides that you found on Times, but today I just changed the format to make them a bit more beautiful. But I think the slides that you downloaded on Times are more suitable for printing if you want to print the slides. So later, if you want, I can share this. Actually, as I said, they are exactly the same slide, just the design is different. If you want, I can share them with you as well. So okay. So let me full screen this. Okay, so today's topic is on about the futures contract on crude palm oil. So it's futures, crude palm oil futures and crude palm kernel oil futures. What is the difference? Just the underlying asset is different, but actually the mechanisms and the way we use them are exactly the same. Please. Okay. So what are the objectives? I'm not sure you can read them or not, but they are in your slides. The objectives, as I said, is just to introduce to you these futures contracts and then to implement three strategies: hedging, speculation, and arbitrage. That's all. There are some terms that you need to know, but okay. There are some terms that you need to know, but we already discussed. Why you need these terms? Because in the final exam, actually previous semester, I gave the students screenshot of the Bursa Malaysia website of the prices of futures contracts. So I gave them something like this, and then I asked them to implement the strategies. So you need to understand the meaning of open, high, low, bid, ask, these sort of things, because I would give you exactly the same thing. Maybe I will capture screen the latest prices of one of these instruments from Bursa Malaysia and insert in your exam question, and then you need to implement the strategy. Actually, it's not difficult, but anyway, you need to understand the meaning of open, settlement price, open interest, bid, and ask. But you have seen this a lot before. Okay, but what is very important, we'll start soon. First, let me recall something that we already discussed, and it's called convergence of futures to spot. Means we expect the price of futures contract and spot price, and they move together and they will be the same at the maturity. This means that this is convergence, right? Why? Because if there is a difference between the futures price and the spot price at the expiration date, then there will be arbitrage opportunity, and quickly it will disappear because investors will identify it and take position on it. Okay. So what do we need from this slide? Just keep in mind that when I don't give you different prices for futures price and spot price at the maturity on the expiration date, just assume they are the same. This is called convergence, right? So if I gave you the spot price of crude palm oil at the maturity, then, and I didn't give you the futures price of this instrument at the maturity, you just need to assume they are the same. You can see the top left of this. Okay, so in this case, let me share, because as I said, there were some technical problems and I quickly actually changed my laptop, tried to fix the issue. So what I can do because some of you, I saw one of your comments that you can see all this slide so I can share my screen with you. Okay, let me share my screen with you. Okay, how is it now? Uh, so yeah, so what is this? Later, please check the website of Bursa Malaysia. Here I have provided the link. The link is here. So check the how they report the price and how they announce the price, and also check the detailed description of the instruments. For example, check the FCPO, means crude palm oil futures, the detailed characteristics. So you can see the underlying asset is crude palm oil, contract size 25 metric tons, minimum price fluctuations 1 ringgit is the tick size, 1 ringgit per metric ton, and more description. So please go through these later on the Bursa Malaysia website to be familiar with the characteristics of the instrument. But what I need you to memorize is the contract size for each instrument, because we won't discuss many different types of contracts. So there will be just 3 or 4 contracts. So what you need to do is to memorize the contract size. For crude palm oil futures, the contract size is 25 metric tons. Yeah, so please memorize the size of the contract. Okay, what I want to do is I keep the chat box open here to be able to talk to you as well. Okay. Okay, seems everything is fine. So what you need to memorize? You need to memorize the contract size, and for this instrument is 25 metric tons. So let's work on some questions. I prepared 3 examples, one for hedging and one for speculation and one for arbitrage. So please pay attention. The exam question will be something like this. Let's read the question. Palm oil producer predicts that he will have 250 metric tons of crude palm oil ready for sale in 2 months' time. So what is the position of the palm oil producer? His concern is that whether if the price goes down, this means that he's long, because he will have 250 metric tons of crude palm oil ready for in his warehouse 2 months later. So he's long, right? So how to hedge? He needs to short futures contract on crude palm oil. So he would like to set a price for his product, not his produce, it's a typo, for his product, and thereby introduce some financial stability into it. So he wants to reduce the risk of price changes. So what he needs to do? He needs to short futures contract, right? Current price of CPO is given to you here, 1,260. Let me use my mouse. So current price of crude palm oil is given to you, and April futures contract price is given to you as well. So you have the price of the underlying asset, crude palm oil today, and also today, April futures contract are traded at this price. Now, Producer's exposure is that the cash price, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and now is February. So he wants to hedge for April, right? So we are in February, we want to hedge for April. And hedge this exposure, producer will sell. Of course, we already knew. So to hedge, to reduce the price changes risk, he needs to sell futures or short hedging to protect and the producer against the price decline. Now, assume in April, cash price of CPU has dropped to this price. Actually, he was right. His concern was if the price drops, and the price actually in April rated dropped. And now we want to know whether the hedging was effective or not. Okay, before I continue, did you understand the question? Did you understand? If you understood, please write in the chat box. So the question is saying there is a oil producer, palm oil producer. He is long. He will have 250 metric tons of crude palm oil to sell in April. So his concern is if the price of crude palm oil drops later, then this is a loss for him. So what he needs to do, he needs to short futures contract. What contract? April futures contract. That's all. Is it? So this is the question. Is the question clear to you? If yes, write yes in the chat box. I will continue. I want to answer this question. Are you following me? Okay, good. So now how to answer. Okay, I want to tell you how to answer these questions. So as we discussed already, to answer these hedging questions, first you need to identify the position of the person. And here we already know the position is long, so he needs to short futures contract, right? Now, how to answer? I want to show you a very simple method, which is the most easiest method that I know to share with you. There are many different ways to answer, but you will get the same answer at the end. But the way that I want to show you can be applied for all future topics. So I suggest you use the same method. I know you can do the calculation just even without using a piece of paper. You can do everything yourself, just maybe using a calculator. But what I want you to do is follow my method, because based on my experience, it will be easier for you later to answer more difficult questions. So how to answer these questions? Often you see any question on futures contract which is about hedging or arbitrage. The first thing you need to do is, what's the first thing you need to do? Jamin, are you there? Oh yeah, Jamin, actually she's the person. Okay, Jamin, what is the first thing we need to do? Esther, what is the first thing we need to do to answer hedging and arbitrage questions? What is your concern? The first thing, the very first thing is you need to read the question carefully. This is the first thing you need to do. You need to read the question. Yeah, and then you need to identify the concern. Yeah, identify the position. Correct. Okay, I'm reading the chat box. Now, next, one of the most important things you need to do is to construct a table like this. Actually, the table is not right like a table now. Let me. Okay, now it's more like a table. So the first thing you need to do is I think million times I said the first thing, and every time the first thing is different from. I'm just changing the first time every time I explain this to you. Okay, so often you see hedging or arbitrage. Of course, you need to identify the position and blah blah blah. But you need to construct a table like this. So you need to construct a table like this. How to construct this table? Very easy. this table has 2 columns and 2 rows, right? The first column always is cash market. What is cash market or spot market? Cash market means the market for the underlying asset. So often you see hedging or arbitrage, you need to construct this table. And in this table, the first column is this one, is cash market, means this is about the underlying asset. So whatever about the underlying asset will be reported here. And the second column is about futures market, means anything about futures contracts will be reported here, right? Now, there are 2 rows, row number 1, row number 2. The first row is today's time. The second row is the time in the future. For example, here, today is February, and later we will have April. The next time that we will have a transaction is April. So 2 columns, 2 rows, right? Now, as Jamin and Cleopatra didn't say anything. Jamin and Hoyroli mentioned, the first thing is identify the position. Again, I said the first thing. Okay. Then, there is a secret about this table. The secret is you just need to complete this table. So to answer these questions, you just need to complete this table. Now, to complete this table, you just need to identify the position in one of these 4 cells. You see there are 4 cells here. You just need to identify the position in one of them. Often you find the position in one of them, then you can complete the table. Okay, so let's answer this question. For this question, there was a farmer that that later will have some oil, crude palm oil to sell. So I'm sure you know that the farmer here is long. Long on what? On the underlying asset, because his concern is what happens if the price of asset goes down. So he is long on the underlying asset, right? So why I wrote long here? Because the first column, as I said, is the asset, the underlying asset, cash market, means crude palm oil in this example. And now in February, he is long, right? He is long now. Because his concern is what happens if later the price goes down. So he is long now. Okay. Often you find the position for position in one of these 4 cells done. Why? Because the rule is I want to switch off the Dropbox. Okay, no worries. So the rule is 2 cells in the same row or in the same column cannot have the same position. This means that if here we have in the first cell is long, you cannot have a long in the cells in the same row like here and in the same column like here. So what position should be here? Should be short. Here, short. And here, long. That's all. So what happened? The first thing we identified was the position in one of these cells. So here in this example, I just checked the position on the underlying asset now, and the farmer is long. So as the farmer is long here, so the other cells in the same row and in the same column cannot be the same. So if he's long here, here should be short and here should be short. And then here, based on the same rule, should be long. Why? Because in the same column and same row, you cannot have the same positions, right? So, Now, so how to answer these questions? Construct a table like this. The first column is cash market or the underlying asset market. The second column is futures market. And then the first row is now, second row is a time in the future. Here in this example is April. Now, how to answer the question? Okay, we just complete the information now. So he's long now, right? So the producer expect to have 250 metric ton of CPO, crude palm oil, for sale in April. This is what we know. This means that he is long, right? Now, what is the price now? Currently, the price of CPO, crude palm oil, in the market is, based on the question, the current price of CPO is 1,260 ringgit per metric ton. So I write it here, per metric ton, right? That's all. So this is what we know. He is long, and now the price is 1,260 ringgit per metric ton. So what he needs to do, we already know he needs to short. You see, it's now easy. You know what's the position on the futures contract now. Now, the first row was now, right? The first row was now. Now in February, on futures contract, he needs to short futures contract. This means he needs to go to the market and sells how many contracts? How many contracts? It's 250 metric tons, right? 250 metric tons means, you remember the size of the contract? The size of the contract, this is the one that I said please memorize. The size of the contract was 25 metric ton. This means he needs 10 contracts, right? So he needs to sell or short 10 April contract, futures contract. At what price? Okay, what price? Today, you remember, this is today, the first row is today. In February, today, the price of futures contract is 1,275 ringgit. So here I write 1,270, okay. So he needs to short or he needs to sell 10. 10 doesn't mean 10th of April. It's not the date. It's number of contracts. 10 is number of contracts, right? April. Why 10? Because 250 and each contract is 25 metric ton. So now, so the value of these futures contracts will be 10 contracts, 25 metric ton each of them, and the price is 1,275. This will give you, this means that you sell it at 318,750 ringgit. Okay, so this means that you sell 10 contracts at this price. Now you go home, the farmer goes home, and in April, he needs to close these two positions. Now he has two open positions. One is he has some oil that he needs to sell. You see, he needs to sell, he needs to short. We already knew. And he has a short contract which is open, and he needs to long, means close the contract, right? So how to do? So in April, the producer will sell the 250 metric ton of crude palm oil in the cash market for what price? We assume in April the price of crude palm oil is 1,250 ringgit per metric ton. So later in April, the price drops to this. Now, this means that the value of crude palm oil that he sells is 10 contracts. No, it's not about contracts, sorry. 250 metric tons multiplied by the price, 1,255 ringgit per metric ton, will give you 313,750 ringgit. So he can sell crude palm oil thank you, Jen. Yeah, Jen is correct. The answer here is 7. Thank you, Jen. Okay, and so he can sell 250 metric ton later in April at this price. Why at this price is in the question. In April, the price drops to this. So he sells it. He will sell the 250 metric ton of palm oil that he has at this price. Now, he closed the position, right? He sold his crude palm oil. You remember the main issue was he wanted to sell some crude palm oil. His concern was what happens if the price dropped. And actually the price dropped. He sold the crude palm oil at a lower price, you see? The price in February was 1,260, but the price dropped to 1,255. Now, so this means a loss for him on crude palm oil. But he has a futures contract that he needs to close. He short 10 contracts of April futures at this price. Later, he needs to long the contract. He already sold, now he's short, he long, means he closed the position. Like what we did in the plus 500 platform. You can sell and later you buy, right, to close the account. He already sold, now he long, means he buy or he long. He buys 10 April futures contract at what price? Here, based on the convergence, we assume the price of the crude palm oil in the market and the price of futures contract are the same. This means that total value of the futures contract is 10 contract, 25 metric ton, and he could sell them at 1,255. This means 313,750, right? So he could buy them as this. Now, what is his profit here? His profit is on the contract, right? So he sold at this price and he later bought it at this price. This means a profit for him, and it's 5,000 ringgit, correct? Now, we want to compute the effective selling price. He actually sold the crude palm oil in April at this price, but he has 5,000 ringgit profit as well. So I add this profit to this, means effectively, actually, he could sell it at this plus 5,000 ringgit that he collected from the futures contract. Means he could sell them at 318,750 ringgit. Now, what is the effective price per metric ton? The effective price per metric ton is 318,750 divided by 250 metric ton, means per ton he could sell 1,275 ringgit per metric ton, right? What does it mean? This 1,275. Actually, okay, let me explain to you. So what happened? In February, he wanted to sell crude palm oil, but the price dropped to 1,255. But because he used futures contract to hedge, he could also earn 5,000 ringgit from this price drop. So he could collect 5,000 ringgit from the futures contract. So he actually, at the end, could collect the selling price of crude palm oil plus 5,000 ringgit profit from the futures position. Now, he could sell in total, he could take home 318,750 ringgit. This means that per metric ton, he could sell his crude palm oil at 1,275. However, in April, the price was 1,255. So the price was 1,255, but he could take home 1,275 per metric ton. And this is exactly what we had here. You see? It's the same amount. Why? Because he used futures contract. So in February, he used futures contract. He sold futures contract at 1,275. Means he locked in the price at 1,275. So although the price dropped to 1,255, but what the effective price, what he took really home was 1,275, which was exactly the same amount that he sold the futures contract in February. So this is hedging. Is it clear, everyone? Is it clear? Okay, I'm happy that you were following and you understood what I said. Okay, if you understand this topic, you will see that the other topics that we will see in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks are the same, just different instruments. Okay, so let's continue. This is another example. Are you ready for another example? This is buying hedge. So the previous, what if I was wrong and the price went up? Good question, Farhan. Good question. This is what you should do. Actually, today I wanted to ask you to, actually, not for this question. Who can answer Farhan's question? What if he was wrong and the price went up? What if the palm oil producer was wrong? Actually, here he was correct, the price dropped and he could use hedging. But what if he was wrong and the price, instead of dropping, the price went up? Then what happened? Who can answer Farhan's question in the chat box? Esther, do you know what happens? Hoiro, but he's still selling his underlying asset in cash market, then he won't have the gain. Is it correct? The price will remain the same since he's hedging. Hoiro, actually, yeah, Ying Fua, you are right. Okay, you know what happens? If he was wrong, actually, what do you mean by he was wrong? His concern was that if the price drops, and the price dropped, right? He didn't want the price drop. It was not his. At the end, it's a loss. Ethan said at the end it's a loss. Okay, guys, I think what you can do is, we don't have time. Actually, I wanted to ask you to compute, but we don't have still got the oil to sell at the high price. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Daniel is correct. Yeah. You know what happens? If the price goes up, he will have profit here. He will have profit in the cash market, but he will have loss on the futures contract. And these two will cancel out each other. Because when you have profit here, you will have loss here, and these two will cancel out each other. So he won't be affected. So later you try. You assume the price goes up to 1,400, right? If the price goes up 1,400, this means he has some profit, he has gain, but here the same amount will be loss. This means hedging. You can try. Please try. Later try. Later try. You will see. Yeah. If the price goes up, he can sell the oil at a higher price. But the futures price will go down. Yes, Farhan. Yeah. And these two will cancel out each other. These two columns. So for hedging, always these two, the first and second column, will cancel out each other. So when the first column is profit, the second column is loss. When the second column is profit, the first column is loss. And these two will cancel out each other, right? So this is hedging. Farhan said the canceling depends on the price of the futures. We assume that on the at the maturity, the price of futures contract and the underlying asset will be the same. So it's independent of the price of the futures contract. Because if one goes up, the other one goes, if the price of futures contract goes up, the price for the underlying asset also will go up, right? I'm not sure whether I think I made a mistake when I was explaining, but the logic was correct. Okay, the explanation is whatever profit you have will be loss here. Whatever profit you have on the second column will be loss in the first column, right? They will cancel out each other. Now, assume that the price of crude palm oil goes up. This means the price of futures contract will go up as well. But he sold here the futures contract at a lower price and he has to buy it at a higher price later. So it's a loss. But here, he buys, he's long here, later he's short here, means he's profit for him. Okay. Okay, I think I could answer your question. If still any doubt, please let me know. Hoidro, as I said, on the spot, at the maturity, we assume they are the same because if they are not, there is arbitrage opportunity and quickly they will be the same. So the assumption is at the maturity, the prices are the same. The price of futures contract and the price of underlying asset will be the same. Actually, the issue is when you cannot fully hedge. For example, when there is mismatch between the maturity date and the time you want to hedge. Suppose that in April, you want to hedge for April, right? You want to hedge for April. But there is no contract for April. The contract is for May. Yes, in this case, the futures price and the underlying asset price will be different. Then it's not fully hedged. Then you cannot cover your loss fully. Yes, this is the case of mishedging. Yeah, mismatch in hedging, sorry. So in this case, we assume he wants to hedge for April and there is contract on the same day at April, right? Okay, so let's answer one more question. Okay, guys, I need to drink some water. So give me 1 minute, please. Give me 1 minute to drink some water. Sorry, I had to drink some water. Yeah, because of the technical issue that happened in the beginning, I couldn't bring water. Okay. Let's work on another example. Let's go back to face. Another example. It's very similar, but it's the other party's side, right? Refiner. Refiner means someone who buys rather than it's the other part counterparty for producer. So they consume, let's say, crude palm oil. So refiner may protect himself against rising CPO prices by buying CPO futures. Okay, so the case is there is someone, a refiner, who wants to buy CPO later. So he received an order of 1,000 metric ton of CPO now in May and to be filled by August. So now is May and later is August, and he wants to buy 1,000 metric tons of CPO later. So this means he's short, right? This means he's short. And he needs to long futures contract, right? And what else is given to you? It's just the price of the contract. Yeah, as you can see here, is 1,000. Okay, it's 1,000 metric tons. This means that how many contracts? The contract size is 25, so we need 40 contracts, right? And August CPO futures are trading at this price, and cash price is this. And however, does not have funds to purchase CPO now. Okay, with futures, he wants to lock in the price. So later in August, we assume that the price increases to 1,280. So he wants to buy futures contract. Sorry, he wants to buy crude palm oil later. So his concern is what happens if the price goes up. And actually, in this case, the price went up, right? But it doesn't matter. Even if the price goes down, the price is locked, right? Now we want to see what happens. Is the question clear to you? Now, if the question is clear to you, those who are following, write in the chat box what we need to do. One of the things, the first thing is to identify the position, right? So, okay, we know the position is he's short on the asset. Then what to do? Hoiro, what to do? Yeah, Ethan. I was thinking what you are saying, Ethan. Yeah, you are right. You need to read the question carefully, but then you need to construct this table, right? Again, the first column of the table is cash market, means the underlying asset market. The second column, yeah, is table. Then the second column is futures contract market. The first row is today. The second row is later. Yeah, actually everyone is following. Yeah, you are right, the table. Okay, now let me find the question. I printed out the question and it's here. Okay. So let's answer the question. As you remember, I said that you just need to identify the position in one of these four cells, right? And then you can complete the table. Now, we already know the position. The first column was the crude palm oil. The position of the person for crude palm oil here is short. He's short, right? And then no need to think what should be the position in other cells. Often you find one of them, you know the rest. To cells in the same row and the same column cannot be the same. So if he's short in this cell, he will be long here and he will be long here as well. And he has to be short here. That's all. So if you think it makes sense, because we already knew he's short and we knew to hedge he needs to long futures contract today, right? And because he's short today on the underlying asset, he needs to close this position. He needs to long. He needs to buy the crude palm oil that he wants in August. So when you open a position today, later you should close. When you are short, you should long. He is long today on futures contract. He cannot keep them under his mattress forever, right? So when he's long on futures contract, later in August, he needs to short to close the position. That's all. So now, so the refiner will need 1,000 metric ton of crude palm oil in August. This is what we know. This means he's short. And currently, the CPO is traded at 1,270 ringgit per metric ton in the cash market, right? In the cash market. We have this information here. The cash price of CPO is 1,270. Okay, this is what we know. This means that he's short, right? So we need that he needs to long futures contract. So he needs to buy how many contracts? 40, because 1,000 metric tons and each contract can cover 25 metric tons. He buys 40 contract. What contract? August CPO futures contracts. At what price? Today, the price of the contract is 1,274 ringgit. In other words, the value of the futures is 40 contracts, each of them 25 metric tons, and then 1,274 ringgit per is the price of the contract. This means the value is 1,274,000. So you buy this contract, right? You buy. And then later, you need to close these two positions. So later in August, as you remember from the question, he needs to go to the market and buy. He needs to fill the position by August, right? He needs to buy crude palm oil. So he buys 1,000 metric ton of CPO in cash market. We are in the cash market. This column is for cash market, right? At what price? We assume later the price is 1,280 ringgit per metric ton. And this means that he buys them at 1,280,000 ringgit. Okay. So here, he already bought futures contract and he needs to sell the futures contract. Sells 40 August CPO futures at what price? Based on the question, at 1,280 ringgit. This means that value of the futures contracts that he sells is 40 multiplied by 25 multiplied by 1,280. This means 1,280,000. Okay. Now, do we have profit or loss on futures contract? He sell at this price. So he sells at this price and he buys at this price. And this means profit, right? So he has profit of 1,280,000 minus 1,274,000 means 6,000 ringgit profit. Now, what is the effective price for buying? Effective buying price or purchase price. The effective price he needs to pay, although the price is 1,280,000, but he has gained 6,000 ringgit from the futures contract. So actually what is deducted, the cash outflow from his company will be 1,280,000 minus 6,000 ringgit. This means 1,274,000. So the effective price cost per metric ton is 1,274,000 divided by 1,000 metric ton, means he could buy at 1,274 ringgit. This means that per metric ton. This means that although the price increased from 1,270 to 1,280, the money that really he paid was 1,274. And it's the same price that we had here. Why? Because we bought the contract. So we locked in the price at 1,274. So it doesn't matter if the price later goes up or goes down, he still can, the effective price he pays is 1,274 ringgit per metric ton. Okay. Any question? Any question, guys? Okay. Now, okay. So now let's go to the next slide. Okay, later you can compute based on the assumption that the price drops to 1,100 ringgit. See what happens. You will see that it won't be affected. It won't be affected. So now, crude palm oil future. What is this? Okay. Now let me show you an example of speculation. For speculation means you just need to predict whether the price goes up or down. If you believe the price goes up, you buy and later you sell. If you believe the price will go down, you sell, later you will buy, right? So here, this very simple thing actually is not complicated. You assume that on a trader forms a strong opinion that CPO price is about to enter an uptrend. So he's long. He believes the price will go up. So now June is June, and trader buys 10 August CPO futures at this price. Pay an initial margin of 15,000 ringgit. Then market closed at 1,172 ringgit. Yep, here. Trader receives a valuation gain. Okay, actually, guys, it's a very simple thing. You see, he, for example, he buys 10 futures contract at 1,170, and because he believes the price will go up. So what happens? every day he just checks the price to see whether he has profit or loss and when he should close the position, like what you are doing for your assignment. So suppose after one day, you notice that the price now is 1,172. This means the price increased 2 points, right? So 2 here, the tick, 2 ticks, or the tick, because the difference is 1,000. The difference is between the today's price and the price that he paid yesterday to buy. So how much profit he has is, there are 10 contracts multiplied by 10 contracts multiplied by 25 is the size, multiplied by 2 is the price changes. So it's 500 ringgit profit. Then he can sell the contract today and collect 500 ringgit. But he doesn't sell, the next day the price suddenly drops to 1165. This means the price drops 7 tick size. Now 7 ticks. So what happens? This means a loss for him. How much loss? 7 multiplied by 10 contracts multiplied by 25. This means the loss is 1,750. The next day the price goes up. So his profit is 12,500. So every day he just checks the price and decides whether to buy or sell. But in my example, after 4 days, he sells the 10 contracts at 1,227. So 1,227, but he bought it at 1,170, right? So the net profit is 1,227 minus 1,170 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 25. And it's 14,250. It's a very simple thing, right? Just check, you check every day whether the price went up or down and compute your profit and loss. Very simple. Okay. Next one. What is this? This one is about spread strategy, spread trading. Spread trading means it's another form of speculation. You know, in speculation, usually, as I said, you take naked positions, means you take a position without offsetting your positions. But there is another form of speculation that you take an opposite position at the same time as well. For example, usually we believe that the assumption is that the price of different futures contract move together, right, on the same underlying asset. We expect them to move together. So when you see, so we believe that the price move together and there is a relationship between the different contracts with similar characteristics, right? So when you notice, when you identify any mispricing, any case that deviates from this assumption, then you may use spread trading to make some profit as a speculator, right? If I explain the example to you, you will understand. Suppose that the spot price on something, on crude palm oil today is 2,300 ringgit per metric ton. And today you see the price of futures, April futures contract, May futures contract, June futures contract, and July futures contracts are listed here. So all prices are the price of the asset, the crude palm oil in the market today is this, and the price of these futures contract today in the market is, have been listed here. Now, do you see any pattern, any mispricing, any opportunity for speculation? Okay, as you can see, the price is increasing, right? The price is increasing for when the time to expiration, the expiration is extending, right? So for today is 2300. Then for April is 2320. Then when it's increased, the time to maturity increases, the price increases as well. Then suddenly here drops, then again increases. So it seems June contract is not moving, the price is not consistent with other futures contract. So this may mean that June contract is underpriced. So the assumption is later other people will identify this and the market will adjust the price and June contract will go back to its normal price, right? Its correct price. So what you do if you see any case like this, you believe June should be higher, so you buy June contract, but you want to reduce your risk. So at the same time, you sell July contract, right? Then later when the prices are adjusted, then you have some profit. So when you find something undervalued, you buy it. When you find something overvalued, you sell it. So here it's undervalued, June contract. So you buy it. Then at the same time, you sell this contract because these two can cover each other, and then you are reducing your risk. Now, what happens? Later, this is the same question. Later, suppose that the prices are adjusted. Now, what happens? This was 4th of March. Now this is 25th of March. On 25th of March, the spot price, April, everything is given to you. Now let's see whether we have some profit or loss. You remember here, we bought June at this price and we sold July at this price, right? Now, June, the new price is this, July is this. So what happens? We bought June at 2,301, and now we are selling it to close the position. We're selling it at 2,238. And for this one, we sold July here. Later, we buy it at this price. So this means that on this contract, because you buy here and you sell here, so this means selling price is less than the purchase price. So you have a loss. You have a loss. How much? 72 ticks. This means that 72 multiplied by the size of the contract is a number of contracts, which is here one contract, is 1,800 loss. But for July contract, you have profit because you sold it at this price. Now you buy it at this price. So 138 points is your profit, means this is your profit. So your net profit is 1,650. This minus this. That's all. So in summary, when you see, you just check the patterns, you believe the prices of different contracts on the same underlying asset should move together. There should be a relationship. So when you see any case that deviates the relationship from the relationship that you assume, then if it's underpriced, you just buy it. If it's overpriced, you sell it, and then take a position on another contract that you assume should have a relationship with your contract to just reduce your risk. Okay. Now, one more example. This is also very important. So for speculation, it's very easy, very straightforward, right? So now I want to show you one more example, which is on hedging. So far we have discussed So far we have discussed hedging and speculation. Now I want to show you arbitrage. This is on arbitrage, This is on arbitrage. So read the question. Profiting from pricing, okay. What is this? For arbitrage, you always need to find mispricing. If there is any mispricing, then you take arbitrage position, and the profit that you gain is riskless, means it won't change. It doesn't depend on the price changes. So in this example, the information for in March, the information for a futures contract, April futures contract, is given to you, right? So suppose that the April futures contract is now traded at 1,120 ringgit, right? So you go to the market and notice that the April futures contract is traded at 1,120 ringgit, right? Now, you want to check whether the price is fair or not. So how to check this? You need to compute the fair value of the futures contract. How to compute? We already know. I showed you in the previous topic. you need to compute the fair value using this formula. So spot price is given to you, 975. And then here, risk-free rate, which is 5%. But why here is a bit different from what I showed you before? The reason is because this is an estimation of the accurate formula. Here, instead of the power, we just divide everything. So multiply everything by, we can remove the power, and then instead we can multiply each term by number of days divided by 365. But my suggestion is to you, don't do it, because you have a calculator, right? And it's even easier to use a calculator when you want to compute this, the power. So anyway, my suggestion is don't use this estimation or rough formula. Use the accurate formula. This is the accurate formula. But you get similar answer, right? But in the exam, please don't use the rough estimation. Okay. So anyway, we computed the fair value of the contract based on what we learned already. It's 983 ringgit. Now, the question is whether there is any mispricing. Based on your calculation, the price of this contract based on the spot price of the underlying asset should be 983. But now the price is 1,120. This means there is mispricing. This means the futures price, futures contract price is overpriced. So what to do? Sell the futures contract. But here is arbitrage. So for arbitrage, we don't want to take any risk. So you sell the overvalued futures contract at the same time you buy the underlying asset. This is the arbitrage strategy, right? This means arbitrage strategy. So how to answer these questions? Like what I showed you for hedging, the first thing, as Ethan said, you need to read the question carefully. I think we already read. Then you need to construct this table. Again, the table is similar to the table that you already saw. It has 2 columns and 2 rows. So the first column is cash market, the second column is futures market. The first row is today, the second row is later. Now we are in March and we identified that the futures contract is overpriced. So what you do is you sell it, you short it, right? Because it's overpriced, so you short it. And because we just identified that you sell, you identified the position in one of these 4 cells, quickly you can complete the table. This means this one should be long. This means April 1 should be short. This one should be long. Again, because 2 cells in the same row and the same column cannot be the same. So when here we have short, these 2 should be long, this one and this one should be long, and this one should be short. Okay. So current price of April CPO futures is, what is the current price of futures? As I said, is 1,120 ringgit. So what you do is you sell April futures at this price. How many? Up to you. Here in this question, did I mention? I didn't mention. Up to you how much you have, right? You put all money that you have because this is riskless profit, right? So I assume that the budget that you have is enough for 10 contracts. So I assume you sell April future, you sell 10 April futures, right? Contract at this price. This means that 10 contracts multiplied by 25 multiplied by 1120. This is the value of your futures position. I mean your position futures contract. So 280,000, right? So you sell 10 April futures contract at 280,000. At the same time, you buy the underlying asset. What is the underlying asset? You buy crude palm oil. So you buy how much? It's 10 contracts. So for 10 contracts, 250 metric ton. You buy 250 metric ton CPO and store in your warehouse for, okay, at what price you buy? At today's price is 975. The spot price of CPU is 975. So here you buy CPU at 975 ringgit and store in your warehouse. But storage has some cost. How much? Is storage cost is 5 ringgit per month. For 5 ringgit per month. So you need to store it to sell it later, right? So cost of this action is 250 ringgit multiplied by 975 means you pay 243,750 ringgit to buy this and store in your warehouse. So this means that you just implemented arbitrage strategy. You see, these two cancel out each other. If the price of one goes up, the other one will go down. But because there is mispricing, there is always a gap between them, which is your profit. So you sold the futures contract and you bought the crude palm oil. Later in April, you complete this. You close your positions to take your profit and go home. So here you bought some crude palm oil, now you sell it. So you means you close your position. So you sell your 250 metric ton CPO at what price? Suppose that later the price is 980 ringgit. Now, how much is your profit or loss on this? Okay, this means that I haven't computed it, so let me compute. $980 multiplied by 250, 245,000. 200, oops. No, sorry, 200 what? 245,000. So you sell at this price, right? Now, what is your profit or your loss? You buy at this price and you sell at this price, right? So maybe I can summarize it here for you. Profit is 254,000 minus this means 245,000 minus 243,750 means 1,250. 1,250. This is your profit from the underlying asset, right? Next, you have some cost. What cost? One is storage cost. Storage cost. Storage cost is 5 ringgit multiplied by 250 metric ton and is 1,250 ringgit. What else? Finance cost. What is finance cost? Because to buy this palm oil, you need to borrow money, right? So you need to pay interest. Even if you don't have to pay interest, it's your money. There is some opportunity cost. So the interest on this money that you paid and you have to wait for 1 month is the finance cost. So the finance cost you can compute yourself. So it's from March to April is 1 month, and the interest rate is 5% risk-free rate. So you compute. It's 5% for 1 month of this price. This means it's around 1,000 ringgit. It's finance cost. So now, what is your net profit from here? This means that 1,250 ringgit minus the cost, 1,250 minus 1,000. This means 1,000 ringgit loss. Then, what about your contract? Your futures contract, you sold it at this price. Now, later, you need to long or buy the contract, right? Buy 10 April CPO futures at what price? We assume is 980 ringgit. Now, this means that value of the futures contract is 10 contracts, 25 each, and 980. This will give you 245,000 ringgit. So, what is your profit or loss on the contract? So you sold the contract at this price, and then you bought it at this price. This means 35,000 ringgit profit. Now, what is your net profit? Your net profit from these two means 35,000 minus 1,000 ringgit loss. Means 34,000 ringgit net profit. So, to summarize, what I did is, the first thing for arbitrage, you need to compute the fair value of the futures contract, then compare it with the market value. Then, if in this case, because the market value is higher, is 1120, so I sell it. So you sell the contract at today's price. Later, you need to buy it back in April, right? But for arbitrage, you need to take an addition. You need to offset your position. So how? When you sell futures contract, at the same time you buy underlying assets. And here you buy CPO, crude palm oil, and store it. But there are some costs. What are the costs? It's storage cost because you need to keep it somewhere to sell it later. And there's finance cost because you paid to buy this. You have to pay a huge amount to buy this crude palm oil. So you can compute your net profit from these, net profit and loss from these, and the total net profit will be computed. Now, if the price later goes up or down, like this one, I have another example. Let me share it with you here. So it's the same question. It's the same question, but I assume the price instead of 980 goes up to 1140. You do the same calculation, you will get the same answer, 34,000. This means for arbitrage, it doesn't matter what will be the price later in the future. Your profit is locked in. You remember for hedging, the price is locked in. But for arbitrage, your profit is locked in. Means your profit won't change. If the price goes up to million or goes down to zero, your profit is the same. This means arbitrage. This is the reason we say riskless profit, because it's independent from price changes. Why? Because if price goes up or down, these two columns will move against each other, and because there was some mispricing, and this mispricing will be your profit, so you always have the same profit. And there was another way to explain this, but because I want everyone to use this table, so I didn't use that. But in your slides, you can find this as well. This is another way to explain. It's the same method, same profit, same strategy. But what I did, just those who already are fine with this table that I just showed you, this table, no need to listen to me. You can listen to music, but those who are interested in this slide, it's the same thing. But actually, the assumption is here. You see, you sell contract, and you buy crude palm oil. Later, you need to deduct the finance cost and storage costs, right? But what you do is you actually, because here you already sold contract. This means you are obligated to deliver crude palm oil later. What crude palm oil to deliver? You already bought it today as well. You have it in your warehouse, so you just deliver it. This means you don't sell your contract. When you sell your contract, you don't buy the contract later. Or when you buy this, you don't sell it later. You know what I mean? You buy already this crude palm oil is in your warehouse. You just deliver it to the. You just deliver it based on the futures contract that you sold. You know what I mean? So this is another way to look at it. So think about it. Okay. Okay. So in my example for arbitrage, it was cash and carry arbitrage. Yeah. It was, sorry, wait. Yeah. This was cash. Where is it? This was cash and carry arbitrage. This means that you buy and store and the underlying asset, and you sell the futures contract at the same time. But we have reverse cash and carry arbitrage as well, which is very rare. Why? Because the reverse one means that, let me show you again here. The reverse one means that you need to sell crude palm oil today and buy futures contract. And this is not really common. Sell means you need to borrow from someone who has 250 metric tons and store it in your warehouse. Then later sell it, right? So it's not very common because it's difficult to borrow 250 metric tons CPO from someone. And also it increases your delivery cost. So your total cost will increase. So the other way is not really common for commodities. Okay, guys, that's all. So today I showed you 3 different strategies. I showed you how to use, how to implement hedging, speculation, and arbitrage. So please practice. Next week, we will do the same on another underlying asset. It's very important now you practice. Let me see you here. It's very important now you practice because you need to be very comfortable with these terms because late next week it's the same topic but different instrument, but the instrument is a bit tricky. So if you don't understand today's topic, you will have some difficulties next week, right? So please spend some time and work on today's lecture. In the meantime, I want to take your attendance. So, guys, everything is fine. Today was very difficult for me to conduct a class because of the technical problem that we had. I knew that you are online, but I don't know what happened that I couldn't go live. I was just worried that you think that you are in the wrong class. I'm researching, what is it? FNOL4. Okay, I want to share. Everyone fine? Are you fine? Hi, Kalai. So you understood today's topic, right? Sorry that I couldn't finish today earlier. This was just because of the technical problem. I know everyone is tired. I'm starving, but sometimes happens. This is life. Today I had prepared many interesting things for you. I couldn't show them to you. Anyway. Okay, guys, I shared the link with you. Copy. Where is the chat box? Here. Please fill out the form. Yeah, I posted the link in the chat box. Everyone who attended this class, please fill out the form. Yes, okay. Okay, guys, thank you very much. I will see you on Wednesday in my tutorial class. Hope it was informative. We will work on tutorial questions and we'll practice, but before the tutorial class, please make sure that you're comfortable with this topic. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I'm reading your comments in the chat box, so just make sure that you fill out the form. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.